Hallo lieve mensen, this is a video, a compilation of several chapters of Narcissism I made. And if you have any questions or comments, you can click down below. Thank you and have a good day. Hallo lieve mensen, this video is going to be about the 3 biggest misconceptions about narcissism. About narcissism, number 1, it's a narcissist love themselves too much. They only love themselves and they are even in love with themselves. That's not really true because they can't love themselves because they don't know who they are. And they don't know who they are because they didn't create an own identity. They never created it. So if you don't have an identity, you can't develop it in your childhood, then you can't love yourself because there's no development. So how can it be? In the early childhood, the child created an imaginary friend because they felt worthless. So they created a friend, but not so like normal children sometimes do, or a lot of children. They create not an equal friend, they create a godlike friend. And everything that he is not, the godlike friend, it is. So when normal children create an equal friend, the narcissists create a person, a friend who can he look up to. So that's the way that it's kind of a defense mechanism that that grows in him. So as the development for his godlike creature, godlike imaginary friend grows bigger and bigger, because the longer you believe in that fantasy, the more real it gets for him or her. And the more the development of that imaginary friend goes bigger, the more his own real self is going to fade in the fog. So he gets more smaller and smaller, and suddenly there's no self anymore. Even there was not really a self because it didn't develop, but his fragile child in him that should be developed is now disappearing in the fog. And the only thing that's left is the godlike person. And as he grows older, it's your time to admire the godlike person. So now it's your turn. So what is going to happen? He needs it. He needs to continuously show him that or her that it's that his fantasy is real. So you have to continuously say, oh, it's okay, you're godlike, like confirmation that that his fantasy is real. So that's your task. And everywhere he comes, he needs that supply. So later on they call it supply because they need it. They need to get the admiration, to validate him. And that's how it develops. So he can't have a sense of self. He can't be himself. He didn't create an identity. And if you have no identity, you can't love yourself. You don't know yourself. If you don't know yourself, you can't love yourself. So that's the way a child develops. Like in the Greek myth, they say Narcissus was not in love with himself. He fell in love with his own reflection. So that's a good way to say it. He admires the imaginary reflection of him, but it's not him, it's a fantasy he created about him. So I think that's a good explanation. But Professor Vagnon said he called it like a cult. And that's even a better way to say it, because it doesn't only explain that a narcissist can't love themselves, but is in love with their own reflection of his fantasy. But in this way, Professor Sam Vagnon said it's cult. So the cult is that that he admires the godlike person. So that specifically explains that the behavior in later life is like that godlike, like I am everything, and the godlike behavior later on in life. So I think that's a better way to say it, that he admires the godlike imaginary friend in him. So in the Greek myth, they say it's a reflection, and but a better way to say it's like an admiration to the godlike person, and his self, his identity never created, never developed. So it's only an emptiness in him. Himself was disappearing in the fog, and the only thing that's left is the godlike person. So never think because a narcissist is egoistic, only thinks about themselves. That's another story. Thinking about yourself or loving yourself, that's something different. So that's a very big misconception. Never think a narcissist is able to love or can be empathic. So this is number one. We're going to go further to number two. Narcissists have a big ego. We hear that a lot, but it's not really true because they didn't develop an identity. Because when someone thinks highly of themselves, people say very fast, this is a narcissist, they have a big ego because they think highly of themselves. But what I explained before, it's something to think about. If they didn't create an identity, can they have a big ego? Look at it like this, huh? If you don't have a sense of self, if you don't develop an identity from childhood and didn't go to the phases, then how can you have a big ego? You need to have a form of self, a form of the sense of how you identity create themselves at longer at when you are adult. So this is an empty cave. It's an empty cave where it's nothing there to have an ego about. And you can even speak about having no ego. In this case about narcissists, then this explains also why narcissists are stuck in the age from 6 to 9 emotionally, then they because they couldn't develop. Misconception number 3, the love bomb phase. The love bomb phase was all premeditated, it was calculated, it was fake. Some people think that narcissists are looking for victims and then very calculating and looking at situations that they can hear everything you say and can use against you later on. But it's not all premeditated, because in the love bomb phase, he idealizes you. You're the perfect person, you're everything, because he is in the fantasy that he is perfect, and yeah, you have to be perfect too. He wants to sustain his fantasy that he's perfect. So that's why they need supply every time, so he can sustain in his fantasy. So you need to confirm every time, admiration, validation, give him supply that he's the best. So you have to be the best because he's the best. And the best is not going to walk beside someone who is just average, or you have to be, he fantasizes about you that you are perfect also. So in that time, he creates a fantasy about you. So that has nothing to do with you, even if later on in the relationship he devalues you, has nothing to do with you. You're not the worst, you're not the ugliest, you're not the dumbest. The beginning has nothing to do with you because you're not perfect. You're not all that he tells you. That's his fantasy. And when he's devaluing you, nothing to do with you because you are not the worst. So having that said, it's the love bombing. For him, it's that time. He is in fantasy. For him, it's true. But it's true that he can be in love, but he's not in love with you. He's love in the perception, in the fantasy he created about you. So don't think,
oh, he's all faking it, he's premeditating, and he when he was sweet, he was not sweet at all. He was thinking, oh, I'm gonna hurt her later on. That's not the case, because he is in the fantasy. So, but it's it's not the way that he always premeditated and that he faked it. But what was fake is a fantasy that he had about you. Has nothing to do with you. So don't think he faked it, but realize that he wasn't in love with you. He was in love with the internalization, the creation about the fantasy he has about you. Has nothing to do with you. So don't be flattered, but don't feel devalued when he is calling you names later on and saying you're the dumbest, you're everything, the worst that you can imagine. Don't believe him. Don't believe in the love bombing phase. Don't believe in the discarding phase, because both of the things has nothing to do with you.
I had a question from Christine Nusrat, and she asks if the people who are narcissistic, if that subside with the years. I have a little bit of bad message for you. It's not subsiding. Narcissism can change with the years, but it's not going away. Instead of people with no NPD, they are getting, most of the time, they get older, they get sweeter, they are thinking about what life they have. Especially men, the testosterone lowers, so they are a little bit softer. But people with NPD, the narcissist can lower the testosterone, but it works different in his mind. He needs admiration, he needs narcissistic supply. Something he was busy with all his life to get. And when he get it, he's running after the new narcissistic supply. And if they don't have it, they feel so empty, they feel depressed. And if they have it, they get a boost of dopamine and a boost of happiness. And then they crush again. So what's happening is, with aging, they're getting more average, average, and average. They're getting a face, like a face in the crowd. They are, yeah, and you know, narcissists, they rather have you called to be the biggest jerk in the world, then they are special, then you say, you're just a friendly face in the crowd. That's the worst thing that can happen with a narcissist. Just a normal person, average, a face in the crowd. That's what's happening with the aging narcissist. And yeah, he comforts himself with the trophies of the past. With aging, there comes disillusionments. They still feel entitled and think they have more rights than anyone, and they have the right at narcissistic supply. But they are doing their best, like they always do, but they fail to get it. And that's very frustrating. And they only can look at the past of their accomplishments, if that's bodybuilding or physical accomplishments, sport, athletic things, and they can say, look at my trophy, look what I did. But the people having something like, okay, we already knew that, come up with something new. Or if you have a cerebral narcissist, they would say, look at what I accomplished, look at what CEO, look at how intelligent I am. But people had, okay, we already know that. So there's no narcissistic supply anymore. So what's happening? They get depressed. The interesting fact about this is that you have an overt and you have a covert narcissist. If you want to have more information about that difference, it's like the same as vulnerable and grandiose, I made a video of it. So I put it in the description below and I explain what the difference is. But so if you know what the difference is, if you have a grandiose narcissist, an overt narcissist, who is all his life or her life that way, he or she gets older, and what's happening, they're changing in a covert narcissist, in a vulnerable narcissist. It can happen. So then you think, oh, that person was always so narcissistic and grandiose, and not always seeking control and every trait in the book, and suddenly get older and they get softer and they do everything. You think, oh, narcissism subsides with the years. But no, it's changing. It's changing in the covert narcissist. So I explained that in that video. So be aware of that. Be aware of aging, because the narcissist, there's happening so much. And if a narcissist goes rock bottom, they change from grandiose to a vulnerable narcissist. And it can also be the other way around. So keep that in mind. And a narcissist can change, this is a change, but they always have the narcissistic traits in them. Because people around them are dying, because they lose a lot of things, they lose their good body, the good shape, their healthy body, they get a lot of pain everywhere, and they get rock bottom. So if a narcissist gets rock bottom, they can change to the covert narcissist. So sorry, Christine, that I don't have any better news for you, but I hope you have a way to deal with it. I only can say go on with looking for information. It helps a lot, and I wish you all the success. Thank you so much for your question. Hallo lieve mensen. This video I'm going to talk about the 4 stages where we go through from a victim to a warrior. So let's start for number 1. Number 1 is victim. You are a victim when something happening to you and you don't see it coming. If you are getting attacked and you're walking on the street, you're getting attacked, it's clear that you are a victim. But if you meet someone and you are having a relationship with someone, systematically you are getting abused, and it goes so slowly that you're not even aware of it. So it takes a time before you know that, oh, this is abuse, and this time I am a victim. So if you are getting abused, but you don't know and don't realize that this is abuse, you are a victim. But then we come to number 2. If you are getting abused, but you are decided to stay in that situation, think about it. Are you still a victim? If you choose to stay in a situation, you are getting abused. I'd like to know what you're thinking about it. And if you have any questions or a response to it, please make a note in the comments. And because I'm very curious what you think about this situation, because I know very many people are getting angry of me calling them a volunteer, because it's not that I call the people who are choosing to stay in a situation when they know they are getting abused, that I think, okay, they are deserving this or they are asking for it. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying you are a volunteer because you know it and you have a choice. So to wake people up and to shake them a little bit around and say, wake up, you are getting abused and you know it, you have a choice. You are deciding to stay in the victim role, but you're not a victim because you know it. You know you are getting abused, so you are not a victim. And that's very necessary to say that to someone who is going through that. It's important because only if they realize that they are getting abused and they are a volunteer, sometimes they feel hurt. If I say that, the people getting angry at me, actually the volunteer stage is also a stage where the steps seem so hard to go away that it's scary. So it seems safer and familiar to stay in the victim role. So there's a lot of shame in it. And I know because I've been there. I was a volunteer for a long time. So don't get angry of me for saying that, because I know from myself, my own experience, at the moment I realized that I was a volunteer, I felt hurt, I felt angry because I realized it, and not only the people who are saying it to me, but also to myself especially. And that's the moment that I thought, okay, no, I am not choosing to be a volunteer anymore. Not directly, because I had to let it all sink in my system, but when I realized it, It took a little while, and I knew, so I was in a kind of period in my life that I knew I was a volunteer, and then I admitted it, and then I stayed, and I thought, okay. After a while, I thought, no, I'm not going to be a volunteer anymore. Victims, they are angry if you try to get them out of the victim role. They're getting very, very angry because they want to stay there. It brings something to them. So, but I'm a coach. I want to take people out of the abusive relationship, especially also when they have children. It's so important to choose for yourself. Only when you decide to not willing to stay in the victim role anymore, then you can be able to step into the new stage. Because I decided at the moment I don't want to be a volunteer anymore, and I am not a victim right now because I know it. I am a volunteer and I don't want to be a volunteer anymore. Then I could go to step 3. And step 3 is the survivor. And don't think that you're ready, because the survivor makes you struggle. They are like soldiers going to a very difficult mission, and they have it very, very hard training or a hard work. They are going for it and they have a hard time. So a survivor has a hard time, and they are not done yet. It's just the beginning. So if you are decided to leave, there are all practical things and emotional things, and maybe you're getting harassed, or you are when you have children. It's very much a challenge how everything is going with the court, and a lot of things are coming. If you bought a house, if they are playing games, if you are getting bullied, if you're getting stalked. Everything can happen if in the survivor. So it's normal that if you are a volunteer, that you are scared to be a survivor, to step into that role. But you are very, very strong. You are more strong than you think. Even it doesn't matter if you are a man or a female. You are very strong. You think, oh, maybe I can do it. But you live day by day. You decide to leave and you live day by day. And before you know it, you look around and you are a month further, and everything is going to be better and better by time. So, but it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of self reflection, and yeah, it's a hard time. When you're deciding to leave, you come in kind of surviving mode. It's nerve-wracking. It's a practical and emotional a difficult time. And even if you don't have children, or you don't have a house together, you're not married, and you can go away, nothing practical is going on, then still it's emotional, very, very a challenge, because you don't know who you are anymore. If you have the survivor stage, it's a good idea to seek help with it. But go to a specialist, get a good therapist, get someone who knows everything about narcissism, and so ask for that from the beginning, because there are a lot of psychologists who don't know anything about it. I heard very bad stories from people who have had a psychologist, and they said the most crazy things to the client. And I think, how can you say that they are not educated to deal with narcissism, because at school they don't teach very much about it. So you can shorten that time, and you can get help, because if you have to do it alone, it takes lots of effort. So that's my advice. After the survivor stage, you go to stage 4, and stage 4 is the warrior. So then you have all the stages, and you are done with it, and then you are finding yourself again. You don't need anyone anymore, and you feel free. You are a winner. So a survivor is a good thing, but a warrior is, okay, you've made it. And you can be proud of yourself. You choose yourself and maybe hopefully your children, and they are getting in a better situation. I'm very interested in your situation. Are you a victim right now? Are you a volunteer? Or are you a survivor? Or did you go all through it and you know everything about it and you are a warrior? Let me know, because every stage is very interesting. So let's connect, help each other, and I really want to know, what are you thinking about it? And if you are also angry or you are hurt by what I said, I'm sorry, but if you have an opinion, write it down in the comments and I will let you know. Hallo lieve mensen, this video is going to be about hidden abuse. I want to talk to you about it because I have some clients who are in many ways very similar, and I want to talk to you about it. It's not because it's hidden, because it's only a secret for the outside world. It's also hidden for themselves. In a kind of way, it is a kind of gaslighting to themselves. They are fooling themselves because they say, okay, this and this happened. I had a client and he had a girlfriend, and when she was drunk, she hits him in the face. She hits him, she scratched him, she shouts, and his response on my saying that this is physical abuse, you know that? And then he said, no, actually, she only does that when she's drunk. Okay, but when she's drunk, it's fine, it's suddenly not an abuse anymore. He says, well, I'm a big guy and she's small, so then I think it's not really abuse. I said, but she's attacking you physically. Yes, but it didn't hurt very much. Do you hear what I say? It's like they justify it, and every time I say this is abuse, some things, some sentence, some text are getting over it in their mind that justify it. And not only justify it because of protecting the abuser, it's also a protection from themselves. That I get noticed many times, also a couple of weeks ago by a woman, and she was with friends, and one friend called her for fun, very disgusting name. And she said to me, okay, that's not a good idea, but she was a little down, she had her head down, I'm not happy with that. And then suddenly her head goes up and she said, but wait a minute, I'm very strong. I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm not a drama queen. I'm not going to spoil the atmosphere here. People are happy, and I'm not going to tomorrow or taking him apart alone and telling him, oh, that's not what I think, that's respect. I'm not gonna find out how he thinks about it. I'm just going to do if nothing happened, and I'm very strong because I can handle it. And I think, okay, that are two people I noticed. They say both getting emotionally and physically abused, but they say to themselves, I am strong because I can handle it. I'm not a drama queen. I'm getting physically attacked, but I'm not going to the police. But if it's the other way around, think about it. If you are okay with getting physically abused, with slaps in your face, your personal stuff is throwing to the wall and it's broken where you worked for, and scratching in your face, and someone does that to your children or your mother, would you be okay with that? Would you find that normal? If the answer is no, why are you okay with it yourself? And that's very much a sign that there's no equalness in the situation. You are even and you are equally valuable as your mother, as your children, because you are the most important person in your life, in your own life. There's only one you, and you are also important. So it's not everyone is important, but you are not. So physically abuse, emotional abuse, when you think to yourself, okay, I'm getting name calls, disgusting words I'm not going to repeat, and you think, okay, I am okay with it because I'm strong, What do you think about yourself? If someone calls you those names to your mother, or to your children, or your brother or sister, and you think, oh no. That's a lot of times. If you talk to someone, they say, oh, but it's not really abuse, and they justify it to protect their partner or friend, and but also protect their self-image, because if you say to yourself, yes, this is abuse, it shatters your self-image. Your self-image that you are weak, and that you are not strong enough to stand up for yourself, not strong enough to set your boundaries. So you know very much inside yourself, you know that you are weak, to not standing up. You are weak. And what are you going to do as a kind of defense mechanism? You're going to say to yourself, I'm not weak, not really I'm normal. No, they say, I am strong. Other people's are weak. Other people are going to make a drama of it, or when they get physically attacked or have scratches or a black eye, they go to the police. That's because they are weak. I can handle it. I'm not so emotional. I'm not making a problem out of this. It's already happened. It's over. Why talking about it after a while and talking about it? No, let's forget it. I'm strong enough. Someone calls you names or try to approach you sexually. There are lots of times with the Me Too groups, and you hear a lot of things that it's going very bad. And how can it be? Because if you're getting a tap on your behind, and it's only fun, it's what a nice time we have, and you think, oh, but that don't feel good, and you don't say anything because you don't want to spoil the atmosphere, or if it's your boss, and you don't want to get troubles. You can say to yourself, I should stand up for myself right now, but the consequences are very high, so I am not going to say anything about it. It was just a tap, it was just 1 second, it just never happened. Let's forget about it. But if you don't set boundaries, what is going to happen? It's going to happen again, because he thinks, most of the time it's a he, I'm sorry about that, but if you get sexually approached and you get a tap on your behind most of the times, and then you say nothing, the man thinks, okay, it's she likes it. Suddenly the next time it's going to be a little more and a little more. And if you don't say anything and suddenly say something about it, what's going to happen? The more you wait, the more difficult it gets. Because the more you wait, the more guilty you feel that you didn't say it right away. So set your boundaries right away. So make everyone understand what your boundary is. Because you learn someone how to treat you. And that the learning starts from the beginning. If you learn someone to get over your boundaries, and then you need to learn it back again. So you need to, in the future, you need to unlearn it. And that's very difficult, because they are conditioned that you are okay with it, because you never tell. But sometimes people have a mechanism in their mind and also get indoctrinated by the abuser by saying, I love you so much that you can trigger that in me. And some partners really fall into the trap and say, yes, he never gets that mad on anyone, but at me he gets so mad and he throws stuff, and I can trigger that in him. And that's because he had so much feelings for me. Feelings, frustration, feelings, but that is love, because if he didn't feel anything for me, he wouldn't get so angry. So they confuse love with anger. So if I can get angry at my neighbor, is a good guy, but if I get angry, then doesn't mean that I love him. So love is not being angry. It's not the same. It's not. I think it's normal if you have a childhood that that anger was attention, that you didn't get attention in your childhood, but if you get attention, that was anger. And attention is very important for a child, because it has to do with feeling seen. If you have different kind of abuse, you have emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. We have also something like neglecting abuse. So if you are neglected as a child, that's also a very strong thing, because if you are neglected, let's say when you are 2 years old, nobody looks at you, that means you're going to die. If nobody gives you food, if nobody takes care of you, that's a defense mechanism. Babies can't even sit straight up. So we are so depending on our parents or on a person who gives us attention. And if you don't get the attention and you are neglected, that's abuse. That feels also like abuse. But if you get the attention as a child by making your parent angry, and then you can confuse this with love, because it feels good. You are being seen. It's like you are safe now because you're alive. And that goes very deep, what I'm saying to you right now, but it is a kind of explanation why someone can in later life can confuse anger with love. But don't fall in the trap yourself. If he gets angry, if he beats you, if he throws stuff at you or she, and don't think this is normal. Don't think, okay, that's the love the person has, the anger comes out of it. And it's the bad childhood, and it's the feelings, the strong feelings the person has about me that can trigger the person and then gets exploding. And that's love. How does that sound? Not really good. Anger is not love. Abuse is not love. It's possession, it's power. That's a no other thing. So set your boundaries. Feel it for yourself. Does it make me feel good or feel bad? And keep in your mind, am I justifying it for myself that abuse is okay? Are you strong enough to stay, or are you strong enough to leave? Are you a narcissist magnet? The question is a narcissist, is he picking everyone out? Is he selecting and willingly going to look for, that's a target, that's the person I want to be with, that's a person I can narcissistically abuse? It's a little bit different like that. A narcissist is only happy when he gets his narcissistic supply. So he doesn't care where it comes from. If he gets it from a controlling woman, or he doesn't see people that way. So he sees people as objects. So if he gets to know someone, then let's say he finds a nice woman, but he doesn't know her. What Professor Sam Vaknin said in another video that I have, he told that narcissist makes a snapshot the first time, and then he photoshops the snapshot, and then he idealizes it, and he thinks, okay, this is the person, and it's like a fantasy. So he lives in a fantasy, and he thinks, and he gets from that woman all this attention, all this admiration, validation. So he's happy with it. He lives in a fantasy, and so he's not picking out. He can't pick out because he has a fantasy about you. So he can't really pick out you are vulnerable. He's not busy with that. In his mind, you are the perfect creature on earth. So how is it possible that always you tend to be with the same personality in your life? That's a strange thing. That's a lot of, because I work with a lot of people who have to do with narcissistic abuse and domestic violence. And a lot of women, also sometimes men, say, yeah, I think I'm a magnet because always the same personality is in my life. And it's kind of trapped in a victim role. It's like a passive thought that you have about yourself, because you're not powerless. You're not an object like a magnet. You can think, you can judge, and the most good thing about it is you have control. You have control over your situation. Study shows that there's no difference between the women who are getting narcissistically abused. I see that also in with my clients. How can it be that always the same women getting abused? That's a little bit strange story. But what the secret is you have two kinds of women. One kind of woman says, okay, I'm seeing 3 red flags, I'm out of here. And the other woman is going to stay longer. And she gets all the abuse for years. And those women say, okay, I'm a narcissist magnet. The most women who are gone with 3 warning signs mostly are women who are not familiar with abuse most of the time, and are not familiar with narcissistic abuse or abuse on itself. So if they experience abuse, they think it's very strange. The brain doesn't cope with it, and it says, okay, I'm out of here. This is not love. As a girl, if you see your mother getting abused, getting narcissistically abused, getting battered, humiliated, and you grow up like that, then you think, okay, maybe it's okay, because you're very young and you're getting conditioned. That is the way how to treat a woman. So you're getting gaslighted maybe. Maybe your father is going to influence your mind and say, it's your mother's fault, I have the right to do this. And maybe you are falling in the trap of the gaslighting. But if you're young, you're getting a kind of perception how a relationship is, and it should be. And then later on in life, suddenly you see, you're coming in an abusive relationship. And if you have a father who was abusive, but also has his kind sides, has his loving sides, is caring and everything, and you love your father, but he has also a very, very dark side that's dangerous, but you grow up with him and you love him also. So then you bump into a narcissist later in your life, and maybe it begins with very hard shouting to you in the first weeks, and then you getting a throw or a punch, and later on it's getting worse and worse and worse, and you don't recognize it as abuse. You think, oh, my father did that, and he was kind and he was loving, and now this man is also kind, he has his good sides, and then you're going to make excuses for him. You can, he had a bad childhood, it's only him, and he's so nice with the children, he's a good father, no, this is abuse. The women who are coming 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they say, oh, I'm out of here, those are not really victims. Maybe they get shouted at or disrespectful, but they're not getting in the situation that they are getting a domestic violence and everything, because they are gone before that. And that's the most important thing that you can learn from the other kind of women who doesn't experience. If you get love bombed and then suddenly you're nothing anymore and you go to the narcissistic cycle, go on front and don't wait till it gets worse and worse and worse, and you can say, oh, it's a narcissist again. So while the other women are already gone, you are picking up the pieces and try to make it all right, and try to get the relation back how it was in the beginning. But that never will be. So what's so important in this situation, what you can learn of? You're not a magnet. You're not a narcissist magnet. Don't let anyone tell you that, and don't believe it, because it's working not productively in your mind. Because you think, okay, I'm a magnet, it makes you passive. You have the strength, you have the power, you can judge, you can make your choices. What's the most important thing? That you get yourself educated, that you see on front what's happening, that you learn to be aware of the red flags, And if you see the red flags, you can say, okay, this and this and that, that's abuse, I'm not going further. And it can be difficult because maybe you like that person, but stay away, get out, get over it, and go on. Because if you're there too long, everything can be damaged, everything can be much, much harder. So get out, stay out, don't go back, and no contact rule. That are the best advice. If you are abused, it's normal that you feel victim and that you are going to process that. You need to process that you're a victim. You need to process that you are abused, and that's a lot of grief. That's a lot of very negative emotions, frustration, everything. So there's a deep, deep wound that needs to be healed. But that's for a while. But then, one time, it's time to stand up and make yourself clean and say, okay, now it's enough. Now it's on me. That this is not happening anymore. Now I'm going to look forward. I'm a power woman now, and now it's my time. So that you know, okay, I'm going further now, but I see the red flags. Love yourself. I'm standing up now. It's a time for grief, and there's a time to stand up. And take the time to grieve, and stay in that passive role if you need, but don't stay it forever. Take charge of your life, and become the power woman you are, because you are power woman. If you have sustained narcissistic abuse, you need to be very, very powerful. So I'm proud of you that you're powerful, but take that power and take it to the next level, to the person you want to be. And then if you meet someone, you say, okay, this and that feels like abuse, okay, further. And don't fall in the trap to blind yourself, go into the shared fantasy and believe everything and the fairy tale. If it goes too fast, too soon, too high, it's not real. So be aware of those kind of different behaviors, and take care of yourself. Is your partner a narcissist, or are you both narcissists? That's a question I get a lot of times, because narcissist is very many times they project things. They turn things around, and if you say, oh, you're a narcissist, they say you are a narcissist, and everything you say about them, they're going to say about you. And in a way that it's gaslighting, that you think about yourself, is this reality? And you are doubting yourself, your own reality, and take their reality as the real reality. So if you hear that a lot of times, that you are the narcissist, that something wrong with you, you can ask yourself, am I a narcissist? So sometimes it's like that. Sometimes people come together and they all are both narcissists. Two narcissists that comes together. Can you imagine? If you have two somatic narcissists, they are getting their attention out of their body, and by looking good, by being good at sports and everything that has to do with their body. If two people comes together like that, the same, then there's more competition, because it's the same. They look at each other and only at a competition. If you have a cerebral narcissist come together, then it's also the competition. Who is more intelligent? Who has more accomplished with the intellect? So the competition, and it's looking up. That's more. A narcissist will always look at the competition. A narcissist will always want to be the best in the relation, want to have the most attention. But if you have two narcissists, the competition is even worse, and they both have no empathy, and they both have no sense of entitlement, and all the traits, they have it both. So it's fireworks. And in the beginning with the love bombing, they admire their things, and they say, oh, we have so much in common. But that is working against them at the time. If a somatic narcissist goes with a cerebral narcissist, the one is with intelligence and the other is with the body, then they can look up to each other, because they're not a threat to each other. You can, if you're very intelligent, you can think, oh, look at my beautiful partner. But if you're very beautiful, you think, okay, look at my intelligent partner. But it doesn't make it very more easy, the relationship, because there is no, every trait of the book of narcissism is the same. So they both have a need for power, they both want to have supply, they both feel entitled, and everything around it. So it's also very, very difficult. It's not more easy, but I think in the beginning of the relationship, it's a different kind of dynamic. And but if you have a normally healthy person with a narcissist, it's also very difficult. So if you are codependent, if you are a borderline, if you are a somatic narcissist, if you are a cerebral narcissist, it's not getting easy. It's only the dynamics in the beginning that may be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it's all the same. It's a very, very difficult situation, and it's not getting better. And I'm sorry I can't give you better news, but I wish you a good day. Narcissism is a personality disorder that manifests in a grandiose sense of self-importance, entitlement, and superiority. A covert narcissist is a little bit different than the grandiose narcissist. The grandiose narcissist is more self-assured, while the covert narcissist is very insecure, complains a lot, is very in the victim role. If you meet a grandiose narcissist on a party, you will notice him very directly. He is telling everything, every big stories to everyone, while a covert narcissist, vulnerable, covert sometimes it's pronounced as vulnerable, they tend to not, you don't notice them very well in a party because they are more introvert. Not like, oh, I am this because I am that, because they don't think about themselves that way. They have a very high sense of a feeling of a loser, a very big, intense feeling of being not good enough, not worthy enough. The insecurity is very, very high with that kind of people. There is a very interesting research done by Pincus and Ronning, and they researched the different kind of narcissists. So you have the covert and you have the grandiose, that they can sometimes switch. So the grandiose, let's say that they are very successful in their life and everything is going for them. They have the money, they have the house, they have a perfect job, they have children and house, everything to show off for. And then suddenly they lose everything. They lost their job, they lost their house, the woman is going away, everything. And then they are very, like a rock bottom, like you say, a rock bottom. Then it happens that the grandiose narcissist that was so self-assured and very bombastic and braggy, suddenly he changes in a covert narcissist. So everything I pronounced it just by now, every trait is going to happen to the grandiose narcissist. They're going to complain and they say, oh, if only have this and if only have that, and it's a witch hunt and they are out to get me, and everything, every feeling and the depression state, the anxious, the stress level, everything is going for the covert. So if you see this kind of change in behavior and you think you have to deal with a grandiose narcissist, but you see under the circumstances of their life, you see a very big change and you think, maybe this wasn't a grandiose narcissist, maybe I was wrong. But no, if you see at what happened in their lives, they can go to the covert narcissist. But if something, because most of the time they're going back up. They stand up, everything, they rub their shoulders and everything is going to be okay. Then suddenly it's going very, very quickly. They turn around again to the grandiose narcissist. It's like there is a core narcissist in them, like, or it's the covert, or it's the grandiose. And they tend to go always to that state. But if there's something happened, they can turn around And they can also a covert. When a covert, he is always complaining, and I'm a loser, I'm nothing. And suddenly they make a big decision to buy a crypto, a Bitcoin. And they make a good decision, and they have millions suddenly. And then suddenly they're going to change to the grandiose narcissist. And then you see the insecure, the silent, the depressed and the insecure narcissist change to the grandiose. And you see what I made, and I always tell everything and everyone I told, yeah, I'm everything, and nobody saw it. Nobody saw how grandiose I am, but now finally you see how I am, and I always knew it. But they can buy a new big house, and they can go get braggy, everything. But suddenly they can get used to the covert can get used to the house and think, oh, but my neighbor has a bigger house, and that woman is younger, and it could be better, and they can get used to it. And then suddenly they can get used to the new life, and then suddenly they change again to the covert narcissist, because that's the core. That's the core narcissist that's intrinsic in them, and that's how they tend to stay. But they can switch, and that's a very good research from Pinken and Ronning. I'm very proud of them, and I'm very grateful for this information. So a covert narcissist can also be very look like that they are depressed. They can feel depressed for a long time because they are so anxious, so complaining about everything. They feel they deserve better, and because they are always in that negative state, for some people they can it can look like, oh, I think you are very depressed. And that's a dangerous thing. If you have a relationship, or just in a relationship, you can think, oh, this behavior is like that because he's depressed. But it's never going away. It will be always like this. So don't think, okay, I wait for the depression to subside and goes by, and then everything, we can be happily ever after, because that's not going to happen with a narcissist. And that's why I like to share with you the things, and not because my neighbor is a narcissist and he's like that and I'm gonna tell you it. I'm going to deep dive in the latest research, in the scientific things that the professors and doctors are coming out with, and I'm diving deep in it, and I want to share it with you, like the latest research from Richardson and Pellet. They did an investigation, and they found out that making your partner jealous, that's a very interesting thing, because they like it. The grandiose like it, the covert like it. But the difference between them, that's an interesting thing. The grandiose narcissist does that to create power over you, while the covert narcissist does that to regulate his insecurities. Because if you're jealous of him, he is standing above you, and you are lower. But a grandiose narcissist just wants the power. So a grandiose narcissist is going more to the psychopathic side, because the psychopaths are very goal-driven, very grounded. A psychopath doesn't need validation, admiration. A grandiose narcissist does. But if you go a step further to the psychopaths, they don't care about attention and admiration and validation. They just want money, sex, their goals on their jobs, and they go for it. So that's another video, that's another topic. This is my first video, so I'm sorry about my language. It's going to be better, I'm promising, but my videos are going to be only better because I have a lot of topics to share with you. Thank you so much.